Running for her life, she asked to hide in a car. What she discovers will leave you amazed. Sarah dashed down the alleyway behind Ma's coffee shop, her heartbeat drowning out the angry words of her estranged partner. The shadows felt thick, choking her with doubt and desperation. She could hear him calling her back. A bitter ache hanging in the air like the scent of stale smoke crept into her mind, poisoning her thoughts. How had things come to this? The dream of a better life had evaporated, leaving her tangled in the chains of financial struggle and isolation. Hiding in a weathered, parked car, she tucked her daughter's worn teddy bear against her side for comfort. The familiar warmth was a reminder of the child she fought so hard to protect. As she sat there, a light drizzle began to fall, framing her world in a haze. She had always been proud of the grit her mother instilled in her, a relentless drive to fight for what was right. Yet, here she was, cowering in a stranger's car, afraid to confront her own fate. Rumbling voices caught her attention. She leaned in closer, straining to listen. It was Tom, her old friend and the childhood architect of her ambitions, seated in the front seat with a slick man. Sarah's heart raced. He was discussing plans for a new luxury apartment complex. A chill brushed over her. This was an affront, an assault on the very land that held her childhood memories and her daughter's future. The town's beloved park would become another casualty in the age of gentrification. The waves of injustice rose within her, a torrent of anger and helplessness that was hard to contain. Before she could fully process her internal turmoil, she grappled with the question. Should she confront him? The years had only added distance between them. The broken paths their lives had taken leading her to question if he would remember the dreams they once shared. An urge clawed at her, her mother's aspirations now stirring restlessly within her soul. With every breath she took, a purpose began to crystallize amidst the chaos. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Tom's voice faded momentarily, but his words had set the stage for her decision. Steeling herself, Sarah slipped into the front seat, confronting him with all her heartache. Tom, you don't understand what this means for us, my daughter, the community. You used to believe in something greater, in a future we could shape together. Her voice trembled but held the weight of countless repressed emotions. Yet, uncertainty hung heavily in the air. Could this rekindle not just their connection but also the fight buried under years of disappointment? Tom's expression twisted, caught between the allure of progress and the discomfort of her righteous fury. The moments stretched, the tension simmering with unspoken truths that intertwined their lives once more. As they spoke, sweat beaded on her brow. Each revelation about his world deepened her resolve, but it also highlighted their fundamental differences, the invisible barriers of privilege that had always set them apart. Would she continue to fight alone, tearing apart the threads of her own aspirations for the sake of saving a fading legacy? Standing before the looming threat of Tom's boss, a figure cloaked in corporate greed, Sarah's heart raced. What would she sacrifice to protect what remained of her past and her daughter's future? But as the door swung open with a foreboding creak, the gravity of her fight crystallized into cold reality. Would this confrontation strengthen an already fragile alliance? Or would it shatter everything she had worked to rebuild? Tom's eyes widened in surprise, a mixture of shock and recognition carving lines across his face. The familiar contours of their shared history, the laughter of youth and dreams interweaved with the raw ache of loss, hovered in the air between them. Sarah could sense the vulnerability behind his crafted facade, but it was as much a weapon as it was a reassurance. Sarah, he began, his voice quaking slightly, this isn't what you think. Progress? She interjected, her voice taut with disbelief. You call turning our home into a lifeless carcass progress? You've lost touch, Tom. This isn't about luxury, it's about community. It's about people. As her words slashed through the tension, a flicker of something deeper ignited in Thomas' eyes, a glimpse of the man he used to be, the ally she once fought beside. But the glittering shadows of profit loomed large, their relentless pursuit threatening to swallow both of them. Would he remember their hopes, the late-night talks about changing the world? Listen, he pressed, a frantic edge now creeping into his tone. Things have changed. It's not just about you or me. It's bigger than that. I can't stop it. Bigger? Is that what you tell yourself to justify selling out? The anger surged within her, cutting through her fear, though her voice trembled. This land belongs to us, not the developers or the conglomerates. Sarah recalled the summer days spent under the trees in that park, the neighborhood kids laughing, sharing dreams. They weren't just memories. They were part of her identity, and they meant everything to the little girl waiting for her on the other side of town. But nobody wants to hear that anymore. Tom sighed, looking as if the weight of the world bore down on him. The fight in his gaze flickered, and for a moment, she saw the regret carved into his features. Tom, she continued, frantically trying to pierce through his defenses, we can make them listen. Together. It's not too late for you or this town. Anger gave way to a strategy in Sarah's mind. What if she could channel this confrontation into action? What if she could remind him of the warmth of their dreams before they were frozen by harsh realities? Every beat of her heart told her to seize this moment, yet nagging doubts clung to her mind. Was she truly prepared to risk the little glimmer of hope she had? Before she could second-guess herself, Sarah leaned forward, lowering her voice. You have the power to change this. You can influence your boss. Fight for the community instead of against it. Thomas' eyes flickered away as he processed her words, the internal battle brewing beneath his surface. And what if I lose everything? He finally asked, vulnerability racing in with his anguish. Isn't that risk worth taking? She pressed, the urgency of the situation crystallizing into a possibility. The line between their past and present blurred, and with every intention revealed, she felt a fierce determination swelling within her. This wasn't just about survival. It was about reclaiming dignity. As silence surrounded them, Sarah's mind raced. What if Tom could be her ally again? A plan was starting to form, but it required her to stake everything on this fragile, flickering connection. Could she trust him? Could he trust himself? Before she could ask for his commitment, the slick man from the front seat abruptly knocked on the driver's window, pulling them back into the harsh reality from which they were desperately trying to escape. The questions now loomed larger than before. What would happen if he chose to walk away from their past? Time's running out, Sarah, Tom said, the conflict still internal but evident on his face. And as their histories collided, her heart raced with fear and potential, the boundaries of her resolve stretching like never before. This was only the beginning, but the air crackled with the urgency of unfulfilled promises. What decision lay ahead? Would this confrontation catalyze change or propel her deeper into chaos? As doubt gnawed at her insides, she felt a new fire ignite, an instinct pushing her forward. She had to make a choice before the door closed on both their futures. The moment of truth was upon them, and she was about to learn just how far she was willing to go. The confrontation hung heavily in the air, the tension a barely contained storm. Tom's reluctance was almost palpable, his conflict written across his brow in deep creases. With every second ticking away, Sarah felt compelled to take the reins of this moment. Tom, she said, focusing on the glimmer in his eyes, if this isn't too late for us, how can you think it's too late for you? You've always fought for what's right. We can change the narrative, but it has to start with you. The sharpness of her challenge sliced through his defenses. After all their history, the little victories won together in those innocent days flickered in the corners of their minds. Could they really unearth that spirit again? Sarah's heart pounded as she waited, each beat resonating with the weight of possibility. Tom's gaze diverted once more, surveying the empty street beyond. In that moment, Sarah recognized an old ritual of his retreating to distance himself from the emotional heat. She couldn't let him slip away. She fought too hard, not just for herself but for the roots of the community that once thrived. Stop hiding, she urged, frustration coloring her voice. This is about confronting the very thing you're afraid of. You fear losing everything, but in reality, you've already lost yourself in this chase for success. Is that the legacy you want to leave behind? Her words struck a chord, and she saw the muscle in Tom's jaw tighten as he wrestled with her pointed truths. For the first time, she sensed a shift. The flicker of determination began to cut through the thick layer of doubt coating their conversation like a fog. What if I'm wrong? What if I hurt people instead? He finally admitted, raw emotion spilling through a chink in his armor. You've always been a protector. Tom, remember when we stood against the bullies in school? Sarah leaned in closer, drawing on their shared past as the foundation of her argument. That's who you are. Don't let these circumstances reshape your identity into someone you don't recognize. There was a pause. She could practically see him weighing the stakes. Every heartbeat felt like an eternity, contributing to her growing unease. Could she truly help him reconnect with the kind of man that used to stand next to her, not just in laughter, but in righteous defiance? I could lose everything, he muttered, the fear thickening the air around them. But Sarah perceived a flicker of resolve within. And what do you gain if you don't try? She pressed onward, sensing momentum on her side. You can spark a change even if it's just a small one. But doing nothing guarantees that we'll have nothing. Do you want your children and their children to look at us and see a path paved with regret? He hesitated, the storm of emotions crashing behind his eyes. Their past, their laughter, the fight for something they once believed in. She could feel him grappling for those memories, trying to wrangle them from the depths of disillusionment. Just as she sensed breakthroughs, doubt pulsed through her veins. What if the true battle lay not just in convincing Tom, but in discovering who she was as a leader in this chaos? Do you trust me? Sarah asked suddenly, her voice steady, even as her heart raced. Trust me enough to take the first step with me? Tom finally met her gaze, his eyes like searching shadows, wary yet flickering with something more. The emotional dam started to crack. If he decided to confront his boss, to challenge power for the sake of their community, everything would shift. Together? He asked, doubt still lingering but softened by the tentative hope. Together, she affirmed, a wave of confidence surging through her. Yet, just as she felt the tide turning, a movement caught her eye. Figures behind them, shadows coalescing into reality. Anxiety struck her. External forces were in play now. Was this their moment to act, or would it soon spiral into a greater threat? Sarah, we need to. Tom began, but her instincts screamed urgency. Their time was slipping away. The question now hovered, electrified by immediate danger. Would they stand and fight, or run from the shadows? Would their rekindled alliance withstand the storm brewing behind them? As she turned to face the oncoming challenge, the stakes rose, binding both their fates. In this crucible of turmoil, Sarah was about to discover the true extent of her resilience. What lay ahead would test not only their resolve, but redefine everything she believed about herself, and about the kind of change they could ignite together. The shadows grew denser as they approached, twisting like dark fingers reaching out to snatch away the fragile hope that Sarah had dared to ignite. She could feel Tom's hesitation hanging between them, his eyes darting uncertainly towards the encroaching threat. Fear surged within her, but it was mixed with something more potent, an instinct to protect, to fight. Stay close, she whispered, rallying her thoughts. We need to figure out our next move, but we're stronger together. Before Tom could respond, the group of figures emerged into the dim light, their faces obscured by hoods and masks. Instinctively, Sarah's heart raced. Were they opponents or merely bystanders in this growing tension? A figure stepped forward, lowering the hood of their sweatshirt. It was Elijah, a local activist known for his fierce advocacy but also for being a polarizing figure. The rest of the group lingered behind him, their expressions unreadable. Sarah, Tom, Elijah greeted them, his voice steady but urgent. Word travels fast. I know what you're planning and I want in. The invitation felt loaded with potential, yet Sarah hesitated. She had come to realize that the path forward wasn't just about rallying support but also about what she stood to lose in the process. Trust had become a fragile commodity, one she was beginning to understand was paramount for a leader. "Are you sure you're ready for this?" she asked, locking eyes with Elijah. "This isn't a game. If we're doing this, we need to be fully committed." He nodded, determination shining through the russet of his eyes. "I wouldn't be here if I wasn't. I'm tired of standing on the sidelines. This is bigger than all of us, but we have to act now." Tom shifted uneasily beside her, his mind visibly racing. Could he muster the courage to stand with Elijah, someone he had only seen as a disruptor? "What's the plan, then?" he finally asked, his voice steadying as conviction flooded it. Elijah launched into a detailed account, outlining strategies that ignited something within Sarah, a sense of purpose she had missed for so long. As he spoke about mobilization tactics and rallying community support, she found herself leaning closer. She could see Tom's eyes widening with each layered suggestion, and for the first time that evening, a quiet thrill electrified the air around them. But questions loomed over her like a foreboding cloud. Would they truly make an impact, or would this just lead to more division? Was she prepared to navigate these uncharted waters knowing that failure meant more than just disappointment? Just then, a siren wailed in the distance, slicing through her thoughts. It felt eerily close, reminiscent of the impending chaos that could ensue if they moved too recklessly. "Time's running out," Sarah interjected, the urgency in her voice becoming palpable. "We're ready to join forces, but we need to keep our heads clear. No reckless moves." Elijah stepped back, assenting to her proclamation, and Sarah felt the weight of leadership press down on her. This was her moment to shine, yet every second felt heavy with uncertainty. "Let us pull this off, together," Sarah said, her eyes darting between Tom and Elijah. The shared purpose ignited a flicker of warmth in her chest, a small but nurturing flame against the coldness of doubt. But deep down, she questioned whether she was prepared to lead them into an uncertain storm. "Tonight we can't just talk. We need to strategize and decide how to confront power effectively. We have a limited window and will be facing obstacles we can't even see yet," she continued. "Let us meet at the old warehouse on Maple," Elijah suggested. "We can plan there without prying eyes. There's power in secrecy." As the shadows continued to looming threats felt weighted with responsibility. The risk of plunging into this darkness was daunting, but Sarah understood that not acting was its own kind of surrender, one she could no longer afford. "All right, let us move," Sarah commanded, her voice gaining strength. "We need to be swift and smart." In that moment, conviction surged within her. Yet, as they slipped through the night undetected, a whisper of doubt echoed in the crevices of her mind. Would this leap into action secure their futures, or would it consume them in its wake? With each step, the abyss waiting ahead demanded reckoning. Would they emerge stronger, or would the shadows claim them before the dawn broke? The very essence of their endeavor hinged on their ability to face what lay in the unknown. As they reached the warehouse, the cold metal door creaked ominously, beckoning them into its depths. What secrets awaited within those walls would not only shape their actions but also catalyze Sarah's understanding of true leadership. And when the door closed behind them, she sensed a pivotal crossroads had been crossed. The question loomed large. Was she prepared for the weight of accountability this new chapter demanded? The heavy door squeaked shut behind them, sealing in the chill of the night as Sarah, Tom, and Elijah moved deeper into the shadows of the warehouse. The musty air was thick with neglect, but she barely noticed. Her mind buzzed with the weight of expectations. This wasn't just strategy and tactics. This was more than a fleeting action. This was potentially her legacy. Was she ready to bear that weight? As they slowly made their way through the dimly lit space, the flickering overhead fluorescence cast strange, dancing shadows on the walls, echoes of her doubts. Sarah could feel Tom's unease radiating next to her, a tangible reminder that they were still navigating unknown territory. The way he chewed his lips sent fluttering waves of empathy through her. She understood his fear. She shared it. "Maybe we should sketch out everything we talked about outside," Tom suggested, breaking the silence that had become oppressive. "Yeah, we need a visual," Elijah agreed, already pulling out a notepad and a pen from his backpack. We can outline our goals and the potential risks. It's crucial we're aligned on what we're doing here. Sarah forced herself to focus, to shake off the distracting thoughts swirling around her head. She would have to confront not only the external challenges but also the gnawing uncertainty within her. How could she guide them when she still felt like a novice? As Elijah began sketching ideas on the notepad, Sarah dropped into a chair, feeling its cold metal bite into her. She watched, studied. Elijah had an innate confidence that both inspired her and gnawed at her insecurities. He was articulate, charismatic, a natural leader. But what did that mean for her and her own aspirations? Sarah, do you have any ideas? Elijah looked up, meeting her gaze with an expectant expression. For a moment, she blinked, caught off guard. They expected her to lead, to have the answers. She could feel the pressure swelling in her chest. And then something clicked. Let us turn the risks into our strengths, she suggested, feeling a surge of clarity. We need to engage people where they are. Show them that what they have to lose is far greater than complacency. Tom's eyes widened, a hint of admiration surfacing. She could see the spark of recognition beneath his hesitation. Perhaps they were all capable of rising to the occasion if they embraced their hidden strengths. Elijah smiled, nodding. You're right. If we can connect the personal stakes to the larger picture, we might just galvanize them. We can share stories that resonate. But we need to be honest about the consequences. Consequences. That word latched onto her mind like a vice. They were facing real danger, and Sarah had to acknowledge how vulnerable they all were. With each decision made, the stakes grew, and she wondered if she could truly handle it. Yet, as they continued to plot and plan, an unexpected warmth began to seep through the cracks of her uncertainty. The realization was jarring. Maybe she was more capable than she had previously believed. Hidden within the murk of indecision was the possibility of self-discovery. Sarah, if you're ready, can you take point on rallying the group as support? Elijah asked. His eyes searched hers, willing her to rise to the occasion. Could she? But before she could respond, a distant crash reverberated through the walls of the warehouse. The sound jolted everyone to a startled silence. What was that? Tom asked, his voice barely above a whisper. An unsettling feeling twisted in Sarah's gut. They weren't alone. What had felt like a sanctuary now transformed into a cage. The air stilled, thick with apprehension. She could almost hear her own heartbeat echoing as she assessed their surroundings. Aware that this was the moment she had dreaded, the confrontation was imminent. Stay alert, she commanded, her voice sharper than before. No matter what happens, we need to stay focused. We can't lose sight of why we're here. But who was she kidding? Every instinct screamed at her to flee, to abandon this fragile venture. Yet part of her yearned to confront whatever awaited them. Maybe this was her true test, this unpredictability and fear. Holding her ground could redefine her understanding of leadership. As they cautiously approached the source of the noise, a powerful new realization settled within her. A leader doesn't just make plans. They learn to face the consequences head-on. Yet lurking in the shadows of uncertainty was the haunting question. When push comes to shove, would she stand tall or crumble under pressure? The moment hovered heavy in the air as they prepared to confront the unknown. Whatever lay beyond the door was about to change everything, perhaps her life too. A silence echoed loudly, heavy and expectant. Each footfall felt magnified, the soft scuff of their shoes mingling with the rhythmic thumping of Sarah's heart. The darkened corners of the warehouse seemed to coil around them, embracing fears that threatened to consume her. Let us split up, Elijah whispered, his voice barely breaking the suffocating stillness. Sarah's chest tightened at the suggestion. Knowing they were so close to danger made the thought of separating unbearable. We can cover more area. Find whoever's in here faster, he added, sensing her hesitation. Are you crazy? Tom interjected, his voice wavering with anxiety. We can't just scatter. Sarah felt the weight of their stares on her. It was a moment that demanded decisiveness. And here she was, caught in a web of indecision. She inhaled deeply, pushing the anxiety down to summon courage from the depths of her resolve. "We can't let fear dictate our actions," she said firmly. "We need to be smart about this. Stay close." Elijah nodded slowly, his expression softening. "We'll stick together then." "Good idea, Sarah." With her spirit momentarily buoyed by his words, Sarah's mind began to race as they moved in a tight formation, scanning the shadows for threats. The needs of her team weighed heavily on her shoulders. If she faltered now, they might not see another dawn. Just around the next corner, Sarah thought, maybe this is where I prove my worth. She entered a back room with the others, and her instincts tingled at the sight of the cracked wooden floor and the scattered debris. Some old crates lay haphazardly against one wall, almost as if they concealed a deeper secret. Her attention shifted from the encroaching dread to the exchange of glances shared between Tom and Elijah, a silent agreement that she could sense but not decipher. "What if we could use the space here?" she asked, pointing to the crates. "We could set an ambush if someone comes in. Win the upper hand." Tom raised an eyebrow, hesitation surfacing again. "You think we can contain a confrontation here? Could backfire." "Count on it," she countered, her voice steady. "But we have to employ risk tactically. It enhances our strategy. It isn't just about controlling fear. It's about controlling the situation." Her conviction seemed to reignite something in Tom. He straightened up, crossing his arms but maintaining focus. "Fine. Let us move them into position." As they worked together, shifting crates and reconfiguring the space, Sarah felt a shift happen within her. Each movement built a bridge over the chasm of uncertainty she had fought against. There was power in action, and as the adrenaline coursed through her, so did a sense of burgeoning authority. Their teamwork cemented a bond. Each exchange became a thread in the fabric of a stronger cohesion she hadn't realized was brewing. The moment was pivotal, peeling back layers of self-doubt. Beneath the tension of their precarious existence, Sarah began to glimpse her own potential, a flicker of leadership blossoming amidst chaos. With each crate they maneuvered, she became less of a novice and more of an architect in her own right. Yet the scrape of metal against concrete suddenly snapped her back to reality, jerking her heart into a frantic race. "What was that?" Tom whispered, eyes darting toward the darkness. "Did you all hear that?" Elijah asked, low and tense. Before she could reply, her mind whirred with possibilities. They might finally face their unknown, and this confrontation had the potential to ignite or extinguish her newly realized authority. Sarah squared her shoulders, adrenaline thrumming at her core. "Stay sharp." The ground shifted beneath them as the door swung open, the outline of a figure emerging against the faint light. Eyes widened and muscles tensed, she stood ready. But what awaited them was far from expected, an identity cloaked in deception. A face that could either illuminate a path forward or plunge them into deeper darkness. "Who are you?" Sarah demanded, her voice steady amidst the chaos bubbling in her chest. As the figure stepped into the light, her heart dropped. The decisions she made next would forge the very essence of her leadership, and what lay ahead could alter everything she had just begun to understand about herself. Would she resolve the confrontation, or would she crumble against the revelations that flooded in? The figure emerged fully into the dim light, casting a long shadow that danced eerily across the scattered debris. It was a woman, disheveled and worn, with a desperate look plastered across her face. The tension in Sarah shifted. The intensity of the moment heightened as the stranger's frightened eyes locked onto hers, pleading for understanding. "Please, I need your help," the woman gasped, breathless, as if the air was a precious resource. "What are you doing here?" Sarah replied, instinctively stepping closer to position herself protectively in front of Tom and Elijah. Her training buzzed in her mind. This could easily be a trap. "I can't go back," the woman confessed, a tremor in her voice. "I'm being hunted. They'll find me. You have to believe me." Sarah's resolve hung in balance. Was this a genuine plea or a distraction? Yet, the urgency in the woman's eyes stirred something within her, a magnetic pull toward compassion even amidst the veil of danger. "Why should we trust you?" Sarah challenged, her tone sharp, testing. Each second stretched painfully long. Before the woman could respond, a sound echoed from the entrance where they had come in, a low murmur of voices punctuated by the slamming of heavy boots against concrete. Anxiety gripped her chest. Whoever they were close. Right now, we don't have time for games, Sarah snapped, shifting her strategy. You can explain yourself later. If we don't act, none of this will matter. Elijah, Tom, watch the door, she instructed, her voice steady and commanding. I'll talk to her. Are you crazy? Tom shot back, panic bleeding through his concern. Trust me. We can't let anyone else come in here. Sarah's voice lowered to a fierce whisper. We have a chance to gather more information. Plant yourself near the crates. Prepare for a confrontation if it comes. As Tom and Elijah took up their positions, Sarah shifted her focus back to the woman whose name she didn't even know. What's your name? Why are you here? Lila, the woman spoke, squeezing her eyes shut briefly as if the admission weighed heavily on her. I was part of something bigger, something I didn't agree with. I found out things I shouldn't have, and now they want me dead. Each word fell into place, forcing Sarah to grapple with something deeper than basic survival. Here stood a woman whose choices had spiraled dangerously, much like her own situation. Fear chased them both, but what repercussions did their current actions carry concerning their morality and their sense of justice? What did you learn? There's a shipment coming in. Lila rushed, urgency in her tone. They're moving supplies, dangerous supplies, and if you don't stop it, she trailed off, her breath ragged with panic. Sarah's instincts kicked in, the adrenaline sharpening her focus. The choices before her weren't just about herself anymore. Lila, despite the risks, represented an opportunity to intervene, to assert control over the chaos brewing around her that made survival appear so uncertain. Okay. Sarah nodded, determination replacing hesitation. We'll figure this out together. But you need to stay quiet and move only when I say so. The thundering footsteps grew louder, echoing ominously. Sarah could sense the approach of danger mingling with Lila's revelations. Clarity sliced through the fog of adrenaline and fear. As she projected an air of confidence she didn't fully feel, something shifted within her once more. This was her moment to embody the leader she was slowly becoming. With heightened resolve, she signaled for Tom and Elijah to brace themselves. Stay alert and listen. We may have to make a tough decision soon. Just then, shadows moved in the doorway, silhouetted figures poised to plunge them into conflict. Sarah's heart raced as she realized the implications of this confrontation went far beyond survival. It was a collision of disparate paths, hers and Lila's, converging on a precipice that would either lead to transformation or ruin. Would she have the power to harness this chaos into a catalyst for change, or would she falter before the revelations that lurked behind those approaching footsteps? The shadows loomed larger as footfalls thundered closer, reverberating against the concrete walls. Sarah's instincts sharpened with each beat of her heart. This situation transcended mere survival. She was about to confront the nexus of chaos that had enveloped her life for too long. 3 people are approaching, and we need a plan, she whispered decisively, directing her words at Tom and Elijah, their faces ghostly pale under the flickering light. Her mind raced to assemble a strategy, threading the delicate needle of urgency with calculated pragmatism. Lila, she said, her voice firm but low, if they come in here, you must remember what we discussed. You follow my lead, and no sudden movements, understood? Lila nodded, her fear still etched on her face. But there was a flicker of gratitude in her eyes that urged Sarah onward. This was no longer just about her. It was about someone whose choices had led her into this mess. And in that connection, Sarah felt the weight of responsibility and compassion brewing a storm of determination within her. Then, she turned her attention back to the door. Tom, Elijah, I want you to stay hidden. Your job is to protect Lila and to provide backup if I can't handle whatever comes through that door. We can't afford to be caught off guard. Are you sure you want to face them alone? Tom shot back, his voice betraying his unease. Sarah inhaled deeply, anchoring herself in the gravity of the moment. If I can keep their attention, we stand a better chance. It's not just about me. It's about all of us and what Lila knows. The determination in her voice surprised even herself. As the door swung creakingly open, 3 men stepped inside, eyes scanning the dim light that cloaked the room. Their presence exuded a threat, a cocktail of violence mixed with authority, everything Sarah detested. She swallowed hard, muscles tense and ready. "What do we have here?" One of them drawled, a predatory glimmer in his gaze as he assessed the situation. "Looks like we stumbled upon a lost little lamb." "Get out now," Sarah interjected, adopting an air of defiance that seemed to take them by surprise. "You don't belong here. Leave and I want to call the cops." The men exchanged glances, their chuckles vibrating like dark thunder through Sarah's resolve. Their demeanor was dismissive, yet it stoked her determination. The implicit challenge hung heavy in the air. This was her moment to harness her fear into focus. "What's a scared little girl like you going to do?" Another man stepped forward, the menace in his voice sharpened by the scent of arrogance. In that moment, a revelation struck Sarah. She no longer felt like a scared girl clinging to desperation. Beneath that doubt, something awakened, a reservoir of strength she hadn't fully acknowledged until now. This confrontation, daunting as it appeared, was built on the choices she had made, the resilience she had cultivated in the chaos of her life. "I'm not just a scared girl," she replied, projecting authority she didn't entirely feel. "You don't want to test me." Unexpectedly, a single surge of adrenaline coursed through her veins, tinged with a shiver of audacity. While her mind whirled through possible outcomes, she realized that facing these men head-on could shift the balance of power. She had power right here, right now, if only she would claim it. "Tom, Elijah, you know what to do," she called, her voice steady despite the uncertainty. Suddenly, the figures moved in, a rush of tension and adrenaline igniting the air. Sarah's heart beat faster. She was perched on the fragile edge of choice and consequence, and she would not falter. The path lay before her, one that demanded more than mere survival. Each choice was an invitation to redefine her narrative, a chance to transform fear into courage as the confrontational energy pulsed through the space. But as the 3 men advanced, ready to seize control and dispel the new tide of courage, Sarah sensed the impending clash would lead to revelations about herself she had yet to uncover. Would she emerge victorious, wielding her newfound strength, or would the weight of their malevolence shatter the fragile thread connecting her to this raw, transformative moment? The first move was chaotic. Sarah felt the air crackle around her as the men lunged forward, one grabbing her wrist, intending to leverage her resistance into submission. Her mind spiraled through tactical responses, a whirlpool of training and instinct mingling with raw emotion. She twisted sharply, breaking free from his grip with a force she didn't know she possessed. The adrenaline surged, silencing the fear that had once clouded her judgment. In those fleeting seconds, a remarkable clarity emerged. She was not just defending herself. She was defending Lila, an echo of lost hope now igniting a fire within her. Each action she took felt choreographed, as if her body had been rehearsing for this very moment her entire life. She lunged toward the nearest wall, positioning herself against it to create distance between herself and the men. The atmosphere was thick with tension, almost palpable, each heartbeat resounding like thunder, resonance amplifying her newfound resolve. Tom and Elijah remained hidden, but their presence fueled her courage. They believed in her, and that belief became a flicker of strength in her chest. "Stay back," she barked at the advancing figures, her voice startling even her. The unity of fear and determination was an unusual sensation, yet it was empowering. She felt ready to confront the darkness head-on, to unravel the web of chaos they had woven around her. Just as one of the men reached out to grab her again, Sarah's instincts kicked into overdrive. She sidestepped him and caught his arm, yanking it downwards while pivoting to deliver a sharp kick to his knee. The impact echoed, and he stumbled, collapsing into his companion. For the first time, she began to visualize options. The fear receded behind the possibilities. The doorway to her potential was ajar, and she could hear the whisper of a stronger version of herself waiting on the other side. "Now!" she yelled to Tom and Elijah, her words cutting through the chaos. They sprung into motion, each equipped with their unique determination, stepping into the fray, no longer just passive support. The synchronized response felt orchestrated. Familial, it redefined their roles in this desperate drama. Elijah emerged, using a chair as a weapon, swinging it toward the nearest aggressor. The man barely managed to dodge it, his arrogance tarnished by surprise. Tom, meanwhile, was at Sarah's side, protecting her flank. They weren't just friends. They were allies in this volatile moment. But with every shift, every maneuver, Sarah felt an unsettling undertow of vulnerability. Despite her assertiveness, the reality of the confrontation lingered with jagged edges. "You don't understand what you're dealing with," the leader hissed, eyes glinting with malice. "This isn't your fight. You're playing in a world that will crush you." But his words only deepened her resolve. This wasn't just about survival. It was about reclaiming her narrative, reshaping who she was in the face of overwhelming odds. She had lived in the shadows long enough. Now she was asserting her identity. "Maybe," she replied defiantly, blood pounding in her ears, "but I refuse to go down without a fight." "I'm not afraid of you." The men exchanged furtive glances, uncertainty flickering across their faces. Sarah could see the tension between them, a crack slowly forming in their once instilled confidence. The darkness they wielded was crumbling under the light she was forging. With a renewed sense of purpose, Sarah prepared for the continuing struggle ahead. She wasn't merely resisting. She was pushing boundaries, redirecting the chaotic energy into clarity. But just as the tide seemed to shift in her favor, a shout broke through the din, filling the room with an impending sense of doom. "Get back!" A new voice echoed from outside the now unsecured door, a disruption in the surreal chaos. What awaited on the other side could redefine everything she had fought for or unravel it completely. Would it be salvation or deeper entrapment? Only one thing was certain. Sarah was standing on the precipice of a life-altering revelation, and the next moments would determine whether she would run away or charge forward into the unknown. The door burst open, revealing a squad of uniformed officers, their presence an unexpected wave crashing over the chaos. The urgency of the moment intensified. Confusion and fear intertwined as Sarah faced a slew of emotions, battling the instinct to flee with the determination to stand firm. "Drop it, now!" one officer barked, gun fixed on the nearest figure, his voice authoritative and unwavering. Sarah's heart raced. In a split second, alliances shifted yet again. The men, now caught between a fierce woman wielding newfound power and the rigid authority of the police, froze, parsing their options. In that surreal moment, Sarah felt the weight of every choice she had made leading to this instantiation of courage. She wouldn't let fear dictate her actions anymore. "It's okay," she said, raising her hands slowly to acknowledge the officers, issuing a silent truce amid the uncertainty. "We're safe. They're the ones causing the problems here." While the tension simmered, she couldn't shake the echoes of doubt that flashed through her mind. The shadows from earlier, menacing and filled with malice, now melded into an uncertainty even deeper as she faced the police. Would they believe her? Would they see the 5 years of struggle and losses buried in her heart? "Get down," another officer commanded, taking charge of the situation as they swept into the warehouse. Fear still pulsated in the air, making every breath feel thick and charged. Sarah took a step back, understanding instinctively that retreating would only complicate the fragile moment. Elijah and Tom followed her lead, their collective presence anchoring her resolve. With a newfound power electrifying their skin, they stood side by side together, a united front in this fight for justice. "Who's in charge here?" an officer demanded, making his way through the chaos, his scrutinizing gaze locking on Sarah. "I am," she declared firmly, each word anchored in the depths of her being. "We were working to address an issue with community interests being threatened. This is about justice." The officer's gaze softened, perhaps more receptive to her than she had expected. "We've received reports of suspicious activities in the area. Is that what you're referencing?" "Yes," Sarah replied, her breathing steadying now with purpose rallying within her. She pointed towards Lila who stood just behind her, a flicker of hope illuminating her tired eyes. She has valuable information. As Sarah began sharing Lila's alarming account of the impending shipment, a subtle change washed over the officers. Their authoritative stance now felt less combative, more aligned with a search for clarity. Elijah chimed in, spilling details of their plan while Tom subtly moved closer, ready to protect Sarah and Lila in case the tide turned again. In that moment of collaboration, something clicked inside Sarah, a burgeoning understanding of her own strength. Confronting the men had been essential, but engaging in dialogue with the authorities shifted perceptions. This wasn't merely a battle of wills. It was an opportunity to galvanize support, a chance to transform fear into collective agency. Orders from higher-ups are coming in, one officer announced, glancing toward the earpiece woven into his uniform. We need to move on this quickly. Whereas the shipment you mentioned. Lila stepped forward, emboldened by Sarah's leadership, and began explaining details as she and the officers engaged in a rapidly unfolding exchange. The air shifted yet again. What had once felt like insurmountable barriers began to dissolve, replaced by a sense of agency that resonated deeply within Sarah. As the officers prepared to take action, she seized the moment to address them directly. Please, help us protect our community, she implored, feeling the echoes of her mother's teachings ripple through her. This right here, this is our lives at stake. Reassured by a sense of belonging, Lila echoed Sarah's sentiments. The realization washed over Sarah that this wasn't merely a fight for justice but a testament to their shared resilience. After a moment of deliberation, the officer nodded, recognition dawning in his eyes. All right, we're in, he replied, and there was a tightening in Sarah's chest as hope surged within her. The officers, now swift and purposeful, surged toward the door, taking charge of the situation. In that electric moment, she witnessed not just the unfolding of potential change, but the culmination of everything she had fought against the darkness. The uncertainty all combining into an outsized victory that felt tangible. Let us protect our community, she declared, feeling a surge of purpose that hadn't existed until now. Weeks later, as Sarah prepared for the community meeting that she had gathered based on Lila's revelations and the police's support, her heart danced with serenity and clarity. The park had been saved, the project halted, citizens rallied to take back what was rightfully theirs. Standing among familiar faces, she asserted her newfound role, elevated above the realm of mere survival into the essence of a leader. She understood then, her journey wasn't just rooted in fear, it was about transforming that fear into something monumental, a commitment to reclaiming their home. As she addressed the community, confidence coursed through her. We've achieved more than we ever thought possible together. This is the moment we reclaim our narrative, our future. This is more than a fight, it's about building a legacy. And as they erupted in applause, the reflections of her journey washed over her. Each struggle had paved the path of her evolution from running in fear to standing tall. No longer just a survivor but a beacon of hope. The weight of her experience and the understanding of true leadership settled comfortably in her soul, an intrinsic part of who she was, someone who could define her own destiny. And when the questioning shadows of her past beckoned, Sarah knew she possessed the strength to confront them head-on, unencumbered by fear or uncertainty. But she understood that strength needed nurturing, and before she could bask in her victory, a different kind of challenge beckoned, the one to inspire others toward their own journey of transformation. So as she engaged with those who needed to see their own potential, she challenged them, as she had once challenged herself to rise in the face of adversity, to embrace their stories. After all, this was the moment for all of them, not just for her. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, because seriously, it makes a difference. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. We want to hear what you think. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. True fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.